The series begins with a 12-year-old child named Ben who will be sitting in the classroom at the time and looking at the window. And Sarhan, at that time his colleague Jason, had no luck and he was harassing their colleagues. So he decided he is squirming while he is walking, and because Jason is evil, he runs after him and his friends to beat him up, so he escapes from it and goes to hide in the bathroom and locks the door on him. But when Jason opens the door, he is shocked that the person in front of him and Leaner's companions are not Ben, and we deny that Ben has a strange and unique supernatural ability, which is that he can transform into a shape that is the second son of Adam. We go back in time for 5 weeks, and then we see Elizabeth, Ben's mother, introducing him to middle school. It appears that Ben is nervous and worried, and a boy named Key comes and recognizes him, and he cleans his safe in which he will put what he needs at home. Ben is sitting eating with his family, and we learn that his mother is married to a person named Phil, and he has a daughter named Max in the same school that Ben goes to at this time. She asks Elizabeth, tell me about his first day at school. At this moment, Jason is staring at him, and his camera, which he promised is broken. He lies to his mother and tells her that he had a nice day. So the elephant would be happy for his daughter Max if she cared for Ben. As he asked of her, she smiles in response, and at night Ben has insomnia and does not know how to sleep. So he goes to the kitchen, opens the refrigerator, and is churning when he finds that Max is in the kitchen. He also knows that she does not know she sleeps like him and asks why he didn't tell his mother about what happened to him at school from Jason. So he's sold that he doesn't want to bother his mother or make her worry about him. So he sits next to Max and takes the headphones from her so he can hear the song she's listening, and shows him that he doesn't like this type of song. So Max stays with him and tells him that he must decide what he likes and wants to be. And the next morning, Elizabeth prepares breakfast for Ben and Max, but Max takes her food and walks away, not waiting for Ben. When Ben wakes up during her sleep, Elizabeth and Phil are struggling because the one in front of them is not Ben. They ask him how he got into the house and if he is Ben's friend. Ben is surprised by her question, and we learn that Ben is currently in the shape of his colleague and is shocked because his mother does not recognize him because he does not know that his appearance is transformed, and he keeps telling his mother that he is her son. But Elizabeth and Phil are afraid and go out of Ben's room to see him, but she does not find him, and at that moment Ben comes out from home. He is running and is very afraid, and he feels it before she enters the school, and he knows that it is Ben, so he smiles at him, and you know that this is a silly prank because she thinks that he is her classmate. But Ben tries to remind her of his sitting together at night in the kitchen. And suddenly, when she finds Kenny, the truth is behind him, and she takes Ben away so that no one notices. At this moment, she asks Ben how she is trying to convince Kenny to sell him because he is wronged and does not know what happened. How did she go and give him her mobile phone because he doesn't have his mobile phone because she has to attend her class, otherwise the principal will call Dad, and then he will be sitting in the school garden and realize that his mother and Phil are calling on Max's mobile phone, and she has sent her many messages, and they ask about him, and Bella and his mother and Phil have arrived at school and are talking to Max. He was very nervous at home and walked away from school so that no one would see him because they had reached the condition and had his shorts. Then he goes to the garden again and sits on the swing, and suddenly he finds a girl next to him who suddenly appears and is talking to him. And you know that her name is Carter. What is strange is that she knows that he is Ben, but in Kenyan form, and she tells him that she was like him in the past, and that he should calm down and reassure himself because things remain under control. She suddenly disappears, and at night, she talks to Max, to Elizabeth, and Phil about Jason, and what he did on the first day with Ben at school, and that he didn't want to say anything so as not to upset them. So she started to get angry with Elizabeth. At the time of the same time, he was walking in the street, and it was raining, and we found her looking like he was back to normal again, and suddenly they found his shorts in front of him, and he was taking them with him. He took his car to take him home and tried to find out why he ran away from home. What is the matter with the pajamas he is wearing? Because this is the same pajamas that he saw as if I was wearing in the garden today. And at the same moment, Ben hears the words that Carter said to him on the radio, and then Ben returns home, and Elizabeth attends with eagerness and love, and when she and Phil sit with him, he lets them know that he does not want to lie to them at night. I give Ben Max her mobile phone, and it says Max wants to help Ben and be by his side. And at Darren's house we meet, he has a picture of Carter and discovers that it is his daughter, and looks at the picture sadly. On the second day, Max tries to help Ben invent recipes that will make him not transform into anything else or control the transformation, but all methods fail. She tries ice cold water and cold to no avail. He tries many times to control the transformation, but he is unable. Then the policeman goes to Ben's house and his mother tells him that he talks to him for a while, and then he learns that he asked Kenny if he was in LG90 yesterday in his pajamas, but he completely denies this, and Beto is Ben, but it seems that he is quiet. So he has a house if he saw a girl in the garden, and at that time Ben lies and says that he was not in the garden and did not see anyone. So Pure brought up a picture of a strange symbol, and they ask if he saw this symbol before. So Ben cries and leaves and walks away. So quickly at school, they're surprised he was in the garden yesterday, in his pajamas, and this did not happen. And he tells him about what Max did to protect him from Jason's harm and bullying, which is that she gave Jason her headphones, and he believes Ben and is upset because he knows that Max loves her headphones and that he hears his mother talking to Phil. And they bring him his Darren shorts. He was struggling to raise his daughter Carter after his death, his wife. And here it explodes, remains Darren's daughter. And the next morning at school, she sees Max Jason bullying and harassing a student. From the students love to be next to Ben so that he is not alone. And then he asks her why she gave Jason her headphones, so she is given only 1 week. At the same moment, he asks her about Carter, so he leaves her as she has not seen her for a long time because she left school and entered a boarding school. Ben is surprised and tells her that he saw her when he was in the garden. He makes Max surprised and realizes that this is impossible. And then he leaves to his colleague Owen because he saw Jason throwing food at him and dirtying his clothes. It became clear to Owen that his father always tells him that he must confront anything that bothers him, but he does not know how to do it. And then Ben and Max see Jason hitting Owen, and it annoys him. And then Ben becomes very angry and suddenly changes his appearance. Now Max takes him to his side, and you know that he has to hide until his condition returns to normal. The second in Beirut, he then goes to the garden where he met Carter, and he keeps calling her a lot. At that time, Darren comes, and they ask where he knows his daughter, and of course he talks to him on the basis that Owen is worried and wants to know whether his daughter is okay or not because he has not seen her for 2 years, so she keeps interfering with him. And he understands that Carter has not gone to boarding school, as Max said, and Darren told him at the time there was a very strong storm in the city 2 years ago, and it stopped. There was electricity in the whole city, and at the same time his daughter entered the middle of the storm and disappeared. Suddenly the storm calmed down completely, and everything returned to normal. It was a girl, and the storm stopped. Then he thought that he was walking on her way because he knew that she was in danger, and saw a strange symbol that he did not know. And at that time he was running and walking quickly. His appearance will return to normal again. And after a while, we will see Ben still controlling his ability and being able to transform into anyone at the time. He wants to see Carter in front of him all the time. And suddenly, he bumps into a strange young man who is wearing a bracelet with a symbol sign at school. He sees Ben Jason return the headphones to Max, which means that his immunity has expired. And then he sees Jason continuing to hurt Owen all the time, dropping food on him and dropping it for him. Biz's house is in his safe, and this makes Ben very upset because when Ben and Max leave, the school meets Darren on their way, and he talks to them for a while. Then he notices that there is a notebook in his car, and there are many drawings of the symbol at home. Ben is alone with Phil because his mother and Max went out to the mall together to buy clothes, and he prepares food together at that time. Suddenly, Ben's voice changes and becomes like Phil's voice, and this makes him feel better. Phil is very surprised, and at the same time at the mall, Max is getting annoyed with Elizabeth, telling her that Maxine is not Max because this is the name that her mother Julia used to call her. And when they returned home, Max would go out to her room while she was still upset, and he would bring her food to her to eat, and then Max would talk to him, and they would know that she loved his mother, but she did not want her to take her mother's place because her mother was still there. So he sold her that he was talking to her, his mother, then asked Max if he was doing this to him to help him protect Owen and Phoebe. He thanked her for being able to read his thoughts without him speaking. On the second day of school, Jason discovers that someone has put a Biz in his safe, so he suspects that it is Owen who did that. But at the same time, Max entered to protect Owen from him, but out of luck, the supervisor sees her and thinks she is doing it. She takes it to the director's office and takes Max out of the director's house. Nelson is angry because he will call Baba and tell him what happened and what he will do for her problems. Ben decided to help her at home. Ben kept his eyes on Phil's mobile phone so that the first time it rang, he would answer it. And he was able to change his voice to Phil's voice. He spoke to Nelson and lied to him and told him that he knew that his daughter had made a mistake and agreed to punish her. The next day, Ben was on his way to school, and she appeared. He is Carter, and she talks to him and tells him that he is wasting his abilities in vain. So Bess leaves her because she hides him and hides a strange symbol in her father and he left him looking for her. So she left her. She was rushing and wanted to know the answers quickly, and at that time she opened the door to disaster, which was the storm, and her father thought that she was the one who stopped it. But in reality, she was the one who caused it, and she did not want him to make her mistake, and she told him that they should test his abilities, and then she would answer all his questions. And suddenly Carter disappears. Then he saw Darren's drawing of my heart in the notebook in which he had drawn symbols. He realizes at the time that Carter, whom he drew, so she would know him, is next to him, and around him days pass. And he tries to find anything on the internet related to Storm and Carter. Then he goes with his mother and Phil to the mall, and they take pictures of themselves on the same table and eat together. Bella is lucky at that time that Jason is an ideal person and that he is a good person in front of people under the pretext that he needs tissues, but Jason goes after him and gets hot because of him and his family. So he takes it between them. He returns to his family again and then calls Max to tell her what happened. Her father and mother see that Jason is a beautiful and polite boy, and suddenly Ben decides to expose Jason and Yuri to everyone who he really is, that he is the biggest bully in the world. And Max hurts me and watches Jason to film him dropping food on Owen. But unfortunately, Ben does not catch up. He becomes very upset and angry about what happens to him every day, and suddenly while talking to him, he feels that he is transforming, and suddenly, this time he turns to Jason and goes to Max and tells her what happened to him. So I became very surprised that she is trying for Jason, because this means that he has sympathy for him, or that there is a connection that has happened between them. At that time, Max asks him to stay away from her, because she does not want the student to think that she and Jason are friends. So he decided to take advantage of her. What happened is that he makes Jason appear weak and goes to fight to bully him, and then Max stands up to him and threatens him. So it shows that Jason was afraid of Max, suddenly decides at the wrong time to take courage and defend himself and hit Jason. But in reality, he is hitting Ben, and Ben and Bella find himself in the hospital, and his mother is treating him because she works as a doctor, and he knows that he is still in Jason's form, and he writes that his mother is tearing Jason apart and tells him that she knows that he was the one who broke her son's camera, and she couldn't believe the role of the innocent angel he was playing. And then he ran away so that he would return to his normal appearance again. When Ben returns home, he is happy because Phil bought him the things he needed for the warming room that he wanted to make. At that time, his mother arrives home and tells them that Jason was with her in the emergency room today, and she says her words to Ben to warn him about Jason, so he insults her so that he understands and knows that she is defending him and will protect him. And then she speaks. Max is with Jason, and you know that she found a video of the storm, and inside it appears a woman standing still. I was surprised that between that time and the next day, Ben and Max decided to go to the building in which the woman they saw in the video appeared. And at that time, Max thought that she had a date with her mother. So Ben went to the library where she worked, and we learned that today is Max's birthday, and her mother has planned her birthday so that she can celebrate it, and only her father. And this annoys us because the meaning of Julia's words to Max's mother is that she does not want him and his mother to be there. So Max stays with Ben and apologizes to him. And at night, Ben and his mother go out to a fancy restaurant and get the check to have dinner together. This restaurant is in front of the building where the woman appeared in the video, and he realizes at that time that this restaurant is the one where Max, her mother, and her father will sit. It is sad that they're sitting together on the same table, and Ben gets up and withdraws because he leaves the restaurant, and Max then makes a suit for him. And all this is so that they can enter the building together and reach the apartment that the woman was in. It appears in the video, and suddenly when he looks into the window, he finds the street floor with the symbol drawn on it. At the same moment, the apartment owners return to the house, so Ben and Max hide, and they are afraid that someone will see them. At that time, Ben is able to transform into the form of Ben, the owners of the house, and the one whose name will be Enzo, so that he can leave the house as Max easily. And when Max returned to the restaurant, her father and Elizabeth asked her in surprise where had she gone and where had she been. She doesn't know what to say. And at the same time, Ben comes in with Kiki for Max's birthday and sings to her while Max is making her wish before she blows out the candles. Ben notices that she's crying, and when they walk out of the restaurant, Ben asks Max if she's okay, and Max reports that she's going with her mother and spending the night with him today. And at home, Max interacts that there is an answer in her room, and when she opens it, she discovers that it is from Carter, and the next morning she tells Max what is clearly evident is the answer that she got from Carter. It was a piece of paper from a newspaper, and on it appeared a picture of the woman they saw in the video, And with her in the picture was another one, and they knew that her name was Morgan. Then she found Max Leonard coming to talk to her, but she discovered that it was Ben, and they knew that it was useless. Every little bit turned into someone their colleagues sold out because Jason was harassing him, and he had to do this to escape from him. But Max saw that this was not the case. It is useful because Leonard has the right to know that he is in a game like this. And at home, Ben and Max are sitting in the development room, and they have many pictures in front of them, and they're trying to find out who Morgan is. And then Ben notices something strange in the pictures, which is that Morgan was flying and was not standing in the window of the building as it appeared in the video. And then Phil sees a photo of the newspaper with Morgan in it by chance and tells them that the one in the picture with Morgan is Darren's wife, Vivian. He prefers that they go to Darren to talk to him, and she explained that her time is between Leonard's personality and he and Max. Asked Darren to talk to him about the history of the town because they have a project. As soon as they enter the house, Max asks Darren to go to the bathroom, and we learn that she wants to enter Carter's room, and she finds her diary and pictures and notices the presence, a piece of paper with Vivian's name written on it. She takes it to read it, and at the same time, he is sitting with him, Darren, and Bebin told Darren that he did not believe him and felt that he was not the best, so Bean flew in and told him that he was like his daughter Carter and needed an answer to understand what was happening. So they told Darren that these answers had a price and that he was not the right person to answer. And they knew that he himself saw Carter very much. So Bite tried to show to Carter to let Darren see her and achieve what he wants. And then Max goes to Morgan's house with her. And Ben, after she knows her home address, where is it from Carter's diary when Morgan opens the door for them, she is shocked that they know who she is and that they know Carter. And Ben tells her that he understood the meaning of the symbol, and its meaning is the word we saw. Morgan entered the house and told them about Yates, and that he was a student of Vivian's, and she was learning how to control his abilities, but he was nervous and did not. He didn't like to learn or take advice from anyone. And when Vivian decided that she would never do anything again, Nades went crazy and decided he takes revenge on Vivian for her daughter Carter, and is able to harness for himself a dark force that is very powerful and difficult for anyone to stand up to. But they were able to control him and his power to stop him. She reassured Ben that there is no danger now and that he should enjoy his life, his year, and his school. But Ben is not convinced by her words and asks if they are really her words. Is it true that what would make Carter send them her bracelet so that they could look for it and deliver it to her? So she stayed at that hour and they would know the time it's late and they have to go. And when Ben and Max walk, Morgan sends a message to Carter and asks why she gave Ben and Max a picture of her and her Thurso. He lets her do that, and this makes Morgan more afraid. Meanwhile, Philo enters Ben's deepening room and sees pictures of Morgan and things about her, Carter, and Vivian. So he was very surprised at that time. A day at school, he uses his ability to changing the voice and making his classmates' voices less loud. I tell everyone except Jason, who is upset that Ben knows how to imitate voices. So Ben decided to annoy him more, lower his voice, and make everyone laugh at him. At home, Max gets annoyed with Ben because of him, Jason got into a fight with her friend Danielle, and he won't take her to the prom because she laughed at him today with him. Ben tells her that Jason deserves what happened to him again. One day, Max finds out that Kenny wants to go to the dance with her, but she is embarrassed because she does not think about going to the party. And then Daniel deliberately makes fun of Max and makes fun of her because she is upset about what happened to her because of Max's excessive sex with Max, because she did not respond to her, and he knows that she should have responded to Danielle and made fun of her from her too. And then Ben decides that he turns into Max in order to go to Danielle and mock her and answer Max is right. But unfortunately, at that time, Julia arrives at school and is interested in Max. So he decides to go ride with the car. He learns that Julia had an agreement with Max that they would buy a dress for the party together. And then he goes to Kenny, who is still in Max's form, to talk to him about the topic of the party, but they are surprised that he will go with him to the party. So he goes to Kenny after that. And when he goes to Danielle to confront her and finds her gloating at Max and seeing that she deserves it. And in the meantime, a movie with Darren and Pure, a picture of Vivian with Morgan. And they learn that he found this part of the newspaper in Ben's acid room. The strange thing is that Morgan has a second picture in the middle of the storm, and her appearance has not changed, nor as if she has aged a single day, even though the difference between the two pictures is 30 years. So the person who was with him yesterday is still the same. Ben finds out that the topic is a movie, and he pretends that he doesn't care about it. And then Ben walks with Julia because he is still in shape. When Max calls him, his mother answers her. So she starts ringing Julia because he thinks she is her daughter, and she talks to Elizabeth and says to her mama. So she leaves her car and goes out to buy something. He is in the street and approaches Max and talks to him, telling her that her father was with him a while ago, and he shows him pictures of Morgan that he met in Ben and Peebles' development room. He must have understood that the person who came to God yesterday and spoke to him, between the two of them, will not be enlightened. Or later in the dress shop, Julia tries to find any dress that Max likes, but because she is not Max, he sees all the dresses in the same shape and does not know how to choose. At the same time, Max is sitting in front of the school waiting for her mother and is surprised that she is late for her. She sends her a message to know where she is and will find her father at the same time. He calls her and asks why. She told Elizabeth to call Mama when it was her. She refuses this at first, but then her mother responds to her message and tells her that she is waiting to try on the dress. So she gives Max, and she understands that Ben is impersonating her appearance and with her mother now. So she loves and enters Ben in the fitting room and fights because of her appearance, so he sells her. He did this to take her rights from Danielle, but her mother showed up suddenly. He doesn't know how to act, and this makes Max get more angry. She fights with him, and you know that she doesn't trust him anymore, and she leaves and walks away. When Ben returns home, he discovers that Max has blamed her and is going to go sit with her mother. So it turns out that he is upset, and she fights with his mother and his pension. He does not respond to her. And Ben goes to the garden where he met Carter, and he leans on her and collapses. So she embraces him, and he knows that she needs him the next day. He is sad and upset because Max is ignoring him and not staying with him. They don't talk to school, and at night his mother talks to him and tells him that she understands that there is a problem between him and Ben, and that this is normal for sisters to get annoyed with each other. And he has to be patient for a while until Max calms down and they talk. And then Ben goes to the mall, and there he meets Carter, as they agreed together to train him in the middle of the crowd. You teach him how to focus and choose the form that he easily assumes while he is in the process of transforming. But he comes to a strange young man and does not. He can't change his mind. And what's even stranger is that this young man is able to see Carter and run after her and Baruch between them in order to help Carter. But she knows that this young man wants to attack Ben, so she starts touching Ben and moves to another place. And she regrets that she was training Ben in a public place because he still isn't coming, and she apologizes to him. At that time, she was walking, and then we saw Darren Wu watching the surveillance cameras in the mall because the mall security reported something happening. He is being chased by a young man, a young boy. And then Darren is shocked when he finds Ben Zahir on the surveillance cameras and goes to him to talk to him. He learns that he saw what happened in the mall that he was in, but he is sure that he can transform into other people and says that he is trying to help him to protect him and that he must be honest with him. Ben turns to him, and they learn that he cannot do anything. And then Ben goes to Carter in the guise of her father and finds out what happened and that her father knows that he will transform. He forces him to understand what is happening because he needs to know how he will act. So they then take them to Morgan and let him see her appearance and weakness after Waits takes her strength. And she and Morgan repeatedly tell the story about the secret that made Waits attack Carter, which is that Vivian gave her strength before Waits stole it, so her strength remains now greater than anyone else which wants this power to take over the world. And he does not know it. It is clear from Carter that she did not send the picture to Max. He is very afraid and understands that Etz is still having a crush on Max. So that he can reach him and go to her, he tries to reconcile with her so that they can be friends again and everything. But Max ignores every word he says, and this makes Ben walk away and leave her. After 2 months, he is walking in the street. He was taking pictures with his camera, but he was lucky that his drawing was on the ground, and it was written on it, "We need you." So he stayed. When he returns home, the same sentence remains on the bathroom mirror. So he wipes it and answers. The next day, Darren learns from his classmate that the young man who was at the mall and who was running after him turns out to be Alistair Morse. The strange thing is that he is imprisoned, so Darren's house is ruined. At that time at school, Jason is teasing Ben and dropping food on him so he can leave. Everyone makes fun of him, and all this happens while Max watches silently and goes to Ben to help him as much as possible. He used to help him whenever Jason used to hit him at night. At dinner time, we learned that Maxie had come back again to live with her father. At this time, he asked if she was happy with her mother. So he left Elizabeth. He opened up any other topic for them to talk about, and she talked about the dance party. So he sold it. He explained that he would go to the party with his friends, and when he asked Phil, will Max go to the party with Ken or not, she will get angry and upset and leave the food and get up, and then Phil will try. He makes the atmosphere nice and asks us about the pictures he is taking. He gets angry at him and asks him not to enter his bathroom again. He is also eating food, and gets up. When he enters his room, he finds a book. He had inside of it a letter from his father. At that time, his mother comes in and talks to him about what happened between him and Phil, and that he must make an effort. He put in more effort than that, so that he could get close to Phil. And the next day, Ben was still upset and talking to him. Phil has a bad way. So they sold Phil. He has the right to be upset with him, and we are not upset with him because of his behavior in prison. Darren is sitting with Alistair and tells him about what happened in the mall and that it appeared in the security cameras in Tatum's house. Alistair tells Darren that this is not him because he is imprisoned as he saw at the time. We know that Hitz is impersonating Alistair so that he can move comfortably, and suddenly at the same moment Alistair laughs sarcastically. He tells Darren that he knows who Yates is because he gave him his appearance with his approval, and reveals to Alistair that he is a strange person and has an evil like Yates, but it scares him, and they know that Yates will not leave him, and Madam is looking for him. Then Darren goes to Morgan and talks to him about what he knew, and that Yates is a prisoner impersonator named Alistair Moore. She began to thank Marjan for his help, and then Carter appeared in front of Ben, and they knew that she really needed him, and that whoever will be able to confront Yates with his strength, and wants him to stay beside her so that she can confront him and help him deceive Yates. She becomes a fan of Ben so that he understands from her words that she wants him to be a bait, and he will leave and walk away at that time. Then she goes to Max's cauldron and talks to her and learns that Ben is in danger, and they all need him, but he does not listen to any one of them, and she is the only person who will be able to talk to him. And at night, Ben is shocked when he finds Yates at home with his mother, and suddenly finds Ben. He wakes up because he is terrified, and we know that he was dreaming, and Elizabeth runs to him to check on him because she was afraid when she heard him screaming. And then she goes to Maxwell Ben and talks to him at that time and asks him to go to Morgan. So he stays with Morgan now because he thought about the matter and found himself wrong. And when Ben goes to Morgan, he finds Carter and Wyatt there with one of them. Her name is Rhonda, like them, and she kidnaps Morgan at that time so they can attack on Hitz, so they can destroy her and take away all the power he stole. At that time, Max fights with White because he was belittling Ben. Then Morgan talks to Max alone and learns that she is part of what is happening, and that Ben's support helped him a lot. When Ben returns home, he sits talking to Phil to apologize to him for his behavior with him, and at school, Ben decides that he will defend anyone Jason Hayes, and I confront himself after that, and he is not afraid. And the next day, I am in spirit. Ben goes to Alistair's house where Witz lives, and Carter, Max, and the rest are with him. But unfortunately, they do not find Witz at home. Then there is a party at Phil's and Elizabeth's house, and everyone is there. And then Julia talks to Ben and yells at him in order to ruin the relationship between Kenny and Max. Ben is surprised because this did not happen. He goes to ask Max why she said that to her mother because it is not true. So Max is surprised that she is also surprised because she doesn't say anything to her mother and goes to fight with her. But at this moment, Owen tells Ben that Max's mother, Julia, was in front of him the whole time, and he never saw her talking to him at all. So he goes in between then and goes to the acid room to send a message to Morgan and finds out what kind of knits he has at home. But at the same moment, an elephant enters him. They know that he knows everything about him and knows his secret, which he tries all the time. He hides him and asks him to tell him where Carter is hiding him. So he prefers to take the form of a movie so that he can get away from them. But Hitz tells him that he will not leave Carter except when he takes all of her power from her. And suddenly he transforms between being angry with him and turns into the form of Alistair. And he writes that Waits has impersonated his appearance. So Hitz attacks him and takes his power away from him. He takes his mobile phone, and then Morgan calls a girl and calls her on the basis that he is a son and tells her that he will go for the dance at school. He wants her to go to the party and bring Carter with her at school. Yates is still in Ben's form, and he is with Max and the rest of his friends. When Morgan arrives with Carter and Rhonda, White Yates is waiting for them. And suddenly Max comes and tells them that the one in front of them is Yates, and she doesn't want Ben to come to her with his strength. He is afraid of it, and at the same moment he brings the real one to school. After that, he returns to his normal form again, and then protects Jason from a wooden plank that he was about to fall on. So Pete tries to revert to his normal form, and Bella is in front of him. Two Carters, not one, and Darren comes to protect his daughter, but Waits attacks him, and they get into a fight together. And then she tricks Max Waits and wears Ben's jacket to make him go after her. And first, as soon as he gets close to her, Carter attacks him, and she grabs him, and he enters between him to protect her from Yates, so Carter's people decide to catch Yates also at that time, which turns into Ben and gets married so that they can take away the power he stole from him. He becomes weak and loses me. I see his daughter and hugs her with longing and love, and he is happy that he has finally seen her, and we learn that Morg is locking Wits in a secret place so that he does not come out again and is vilified, and at night Carter will be with her father at home, and you know that she knows how to bring her mother back again. I am surprised he was at that time, and at the same time he was sleeping in his room, and suddenly he felt a terrible power in his body affecting him, and he became tired at the time when he saw his body shining in blue, and he understood that the power had been transferred to him, and thus he would be the one with the greatest power and the most dangerous of all, and the series would end with the possibility of there being a second part.